to make him hit it on the leg side. All his fielders out there.
6 to win. 4.
Where I live in England with 12 and 15 bowling machines. You know, there are schools in the south of England with better facilities than international cricket nations. Papua New Guinea might be the fittest cricket team in the world. Doesn't matter if you're only picking from 300 cricketers compared to, 100 million. So you've got to factor in all those different things. And when it comes down to it, it comes back to exactly what I said before. The last two dynasties we had in international cricket were fueled by professional standard. The Pakistan cricket off the field has not been professional. That doesn't mean they don't have talent, and they won't continue to have talent. And Sri Lanka, despite everything that goes on in Sri Lanka cricket, they will occasionally be good. And New Zealand cricket and Ireland cricket can be the two most well-run cricket boards in the world. They still don't have many players. You know, you've got to factor in all those things. Realistically, for the amount of players and resources that India have, they are underperforming. They should be dominating cricket far more than they are. You could say for the structure of England and Australian cricket, England especially underperformed for a very long time. I mean, England cricket had professional cricket over 100 years before anyone else. How on earth did they let everyone else go past them so quickly? And Pakistan is a perfect example of they now have the right people in charge. I think a lot of people involved in Pakistan cricket have the right feelings and will be able to move the game forward. But then you got Imran Khan coming in with his 1980 ideology of, well, we only need 6 teams. Can you have 6 professional teams when you have 350 million people? How many cricketers are they going to miss out on? If you're going to do that, if you're going to have a 6-team league, which is still too few, it should be 10. But if you're going to have a 10-team first-class league, then your second tier needs to be of an incredible, it needs to be like the minor leagues in baseball, it needs to be like the G League in basketball, it needs to be like the football structures in England where people are coming up, because otherwise you are going to miss out on so many talented people, and India already miss out on a lot of talented people. And you know, if you look at countries like Scotland, Netherlands, Papua New Guinea, their main strength, Ireland's another one, their main strengths are they don't miss out on anyone. They don't have as many cricketers to pick from, but their ability to find these guys is incredible. If you could match that with the money and the political muscle and the professional structures that Pakistan can put in place and all those people, you'd be in a gold mine. And you know, there aren't that many countries that can join that top 3, but Pakistan is certainly one of them.
What happened to the Sri Lankan cricket? We saw the 2 greatest batsmen, Mahila Jayawardene and Kumar Sangakkara. Since they have retired, they have been struggling. Their ranking in 3 formats, 2020 sometimes they perform, but in Test cricket and ODI they have dropped down to number 7, 6 or 8 ranking. They have got potential and talent, everything. They have got academies, but why they are not producing great batsmen like Sangakkara or Mahila Jayawardene or bowlers like Chaminda Vas? They are struggling in 3 phases, and then I will move to the next phase of my.
Well, I mean, you're basically saying, why can't they replace 3 of their greatest cricketers of all time? And you could throw Murali in with that as well. I mean, Australia haven't replaced Shane Warne. There was a drop-off when Shane Warne went. South Africa may never replace. You know, replacing players of that level is not that easy. I think they have a good crop of players coming through who just didn't step up, and partly because they're not as well. I mean, a lot of this comes back to the basic tenet. And Sri Lankan cricket has also been left behind by T20 cricket because they didn't have their own league. I think they have a lot of really talented T20 players out there who don't play in many leagues, which means they don't get access in the way that the West Indians and the New Zealanders do to professional structures outside of their own country. But realistically, I mean, you talk about Sri Lanka cricket like they've been playing Test cricket for 120 years. That generation of guys you have with their first ever great player, Aravinda de Silva was a player capable of great innings. He probably wasn't a universal great in the way that Kumar Sangakkara was. Before Murali and Chaminda Vas, do you remember their bowlers? I mean, I think I could have got a game bowling seam for them, and I'm not even a seamer at times. Like they had a pop gun attack for a very long time. They came from nowhere, they had incredible success, and they'll have incredible success again. But you also have to understand the way that island works, in that everything is so Colombo and slightly Candy, but mostly Colombo based. My guess is that they have phenomenal cricket talents up north in the Tamil regions that they haven't even tapped into. I know that the East Coast would have talented players that don't get the chance. You basically have to be noticed by someone and move to Colombo really early on to get a chance to develop, and if not, you're not in the best situation. International sport is about developing the talent that you have. So I had a fight with someone from an international team recently where he said the most important thing is developing talent. I said, well, the most important thing is finding the talent in the first. There is no point developing all that talent if Steve Smith is off on the other corner and you never find him. In order to allow for Steve Smith to be Steve Smith, it helps him to be in a professional environment. But you have to find Steve Smith in the first place. You had to find Murali in the first place. Those are the sorts of problems that I think that Sri Lanka have had, that it's going through a real crisis of professional nature, which I hope it comes out on the other side. But realistically, I don't think Sri Lanka cricket has ever run their cricket properly. And I think that occasionally they've been carried by phenomenal cricketers. When you do that, you go like this, because, oh, great, we've got a couple of great players, oh, they've retired. Oh, we've got a couple of great players, oh, they're retired, right? Australian cricket is going to go like this. It's going to have moments where it dips, but after McGrath and Warren retired and Gilchrist, so three of the greatest cricketers the game has ever had, they still won a World Cup within a decade, right?
12 years on the trot,
yeah. They still went to world number one, I think, in the test rankings in that time. They still were one of the more worried about teams at different parts. They weren't as good. We all knew they weren't as good. But because they allowed for players who are of not incredible talent to rise up, that means that they're never that bad. They're always going to be okay. They're going to have moments where they lose a lot of series and they'll have little things. They're probably not going to have a 3 or 4 year period where they're ranked 8th in the world in one-day cricket or test cricket. T20 rankings don't really matter, but certainly of the main rankings. And that is because there is a structure there. It is hard for them to actually drop off. And that comes from professionalism. It comes from talent development. It comes from talent identification, all of those sorts of things. If you don't do that, you go up and down, because you're going to find really talented players. But if we go back to the West Indies, which you asked about before, Hettimaya, Puran, Adrian Barak. Do you remember Adrian Barak? He made 100 against Australia when he was 21 years old, and he was a priest by the time he was 27. You cannot allow players of that fundamental talent to disappear from the game. You cannot have Nick Puran at the age of 24 being one of the most exciting young batsmen on earth, only having played 3 first-class games. In Sri Lanka, you cannot have players who are not being taught dietary beliefs at the age of 15 and 16. I know when Chaminda Vas took over as bowling coach of Sri Lanka, the first thing he did was go through and fix everyone's diet. He shouldn't be fixing the diet of your top-level athletes. That is something you should be doing to academy kids and to juniors coming up. That shows you the fundamental difference between the top level of cricket and where these other countries are. And sure, Kusal Mendes might end up being an absolute great. He might end up averaging 55 for the next couple of years and carrying them forward. They might end up with another incredible spinner or seam bowler out of nowhere who lifts up their team again. But if you want to be consistently good, you can't have Suranga Lakmal for 7 years be a plodding average bowler when he has his talent. That means something is fundamentally wrong with the way that cricket is run there. And that is the problem.